welcome to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, sponsored by Motivate Training and Management. This is a podcast where we talk to drivers and industry experts to help you maximize your performances on and off the track. Let's get started with today's show.
G'day, it's Matt Payne here and you're listening to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, powered by Motivate Training. This week on the podcast, we cross to the USA to catch up with Australian-raised Kiwi racer Hunter McElrea, who is sweeping all before him on the road to Indy. Already in 2021, Hunter has tasted victory in Indy Pro 2000, getting his second career win at Barber Motorsports Park. After 2 rounds, he sits third on the points ladder. May means just one thing in American motorsport: Indianapolis. The racing capital of the world comes alive with the Grand Prix of Indianapolis and, of course, the Indianapolis 500. As this episode drops, Hunter will be on his way to the Brickyard to line up in the Grand Prix support race and then will take on the Freedom 90 on the Lucas Oil Raceway Oval. Hunter's enthusiasm and passion for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is infectious. It is a place he has podiumed before. In fact, on the wall behind him, there's a photo of him racing on the famed track. We cover a wide range of topics in this episode, including being a Kiwi racer in America right now, isn't that a hot commodity? Growing up in a racing family, managing the business of motorsport, living in America, and coming through the ranks in Australia with guys like Jaxon Evans and Matt Campbell. While Jaxon and Matt are on the Porsche pyramid, Hunter's focus is firmly and always has been on open wheel racing and making it to the NTT IndyCar series. Hunter talks openly about his training schedule, particularly in deep winter, and opens up on his training methods, gives some great tips to youngsters, and speaks of the importance that hypnotherapy has played in his career. So start your engine, relax, and enjoy our catch-up with Hunter McElrea here on the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, powered by Motivate Training.
McElrea across the line. He's pumping his fist. McElrea's going to win. What a turn of events for Indy Pro 2000. And McElrea turns his fastest lap of the race on the last lap, a 1:17.101. The margin of victory, 3.5 seconds.
Joining us today on the Motivate podcast, all the way from America, is a very fast Kiwi, Hunter McElrea. G'day, Hunter. How's it going?
Not too bad, mate. Just living life here in Milwaukee. So it's warm weather today, which is nice. Always makes it a bit better. But I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right. Just fresh from the golf course. How'd that go?
Luckily, I can drive a car better than I can hit a golf ball. Not the best, but it was fun.
Speaking of which, being a Kiwi in America at the moment in motorsport must be absolutely huge, with the performance, of course, of Scott Dixon and Scotty McLaughlin heading over there now. Yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, obviously, Texas was unreal. I mean, they pulled off a 1-2, which is, even aside from the fact of me even racing, just as a racing enthusiast, you could say, because we all are, and to be a Kiwi and to see that, because, obviously IndyCar is in America, but it's such a global racing series now. There's guys from Europe, F1 drivers, and it's just everyone from around the world's there. Basically, it's basically international championship, and for 2 Kiwis to come over and finish 1-2 is incredible. So, yeah, super cool moment.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting this year, and obviously many people in Australia are following Scott McLaughlin's exploits over there after his supercar success, and he's doing a terrific job in certainly what I think is probably the toughest IndyCar field in the last 15 years, if not longer.
Oh, definitely. I mean, look at Grosjean, and I was on a track walk, and Grosjean was there, and he was even saying at St. Pete how tough how tough it is. Obviously, Formula One's very competitive, but going into IndyCar where everyone is in a car that's a lot closer than an IndyCar, it's all a spec car, so the field is way, way more condensed and super close, and there's anyone can win it relative to F1 where there's 2-3 guys that can win. So, he was saying how competitive it was, and I think, from a guy from that level coming to IndyCar and saying, it's tougher here, it's kind of speaks volumes of where it's at. So yeah, definitely makes it even more special, like you said. And the field right now is incredible. So hopefully I can be a part of it soon.
Yeah, definitely. Getting on to you, you are a Kiwi, but you were born in America and raised on the Gold Coast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, it worked out really good, honestly, with how it's all worked out. Obviously, I race under the New Zealand flag, and I'm, proud Kiwi heritage and things like that. But obviously, born in LA, actually, my mum and dad were based in the States for a few years, which is the time period when I was born. And then just how things worked out, I ended up growing up in Australia. So 3 pretty awesome countries to obviously grew up kind of in, you could say. And I love the States. Obviously, racing over here, it's been a dream of mine for a long time. So to be racing internationally is awesome. And being from New Zealand, obviously, I'm super proud of that. And it's also great to kind of go in between Australia and New Zealand in the off season because I spend pretty much 11 months of the year in America these days, and I haven't been actually back to New Zealand with all the COVID traveling stuff, which has been a really big shame. I really miss it, but was good to get a little home time for a month or just over a month at the end of last year, start of this year, even with all the quarantine and stuff like that. But yeah, it's funny, the announcers, they give me a lot of, they give me a, a hard time because it's so hard to kind of, when someone asks where I'm from, they can't really explain it. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head pretty well.
Yeah, whereabouts are you based over in the States?
I'm with the team right now. It's a little lake country town called Oconomowoc. It's hard to pronounce and even harder to spell. But it's basically, 20 minutes, 30 minutes away from Milwaukee. Super freezing in winter. It gets below zero, no problem. And then in the summer, it gets as warm as home. So I've never been to a place that changes so much in climate. It's super crazy how it changes. But I really like it in summer. It's awesome. And the cold is definitely a big change from what I'm used to, but it's cool too. So luckily it's warm now though.
Yeah, and for those who are listening that don't know, you grew up very much in a racing family.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, ever since I can remember, I've always just loved racing, and my dad obviously has a race team running Porsches in Australia, and he didn't have that race team while I was growing up. He worked for a number of teams, or one team in particular at the time, Paul Cruikshank Racing, and even still, like all my memories are at the track, even when I was younger, just with my granddad, looking in New Zealand, or I've always just loved it and just been drawn to it. So kind of just naturally happened, I guess you could say. There's never a specific time I remember where I decided I wanted to race. It was always just like, I'm going to race. Like literally, my mom and my dad can attest to it because it was just, I always was going to do it. So it's cool to be a part of a racing family. I think, it's in the blood, I guess you could say. It sounds kind of, it is in the blood, and it's a cliche saying, but in saying that, my brother, doesn't have any racing kind of interest. He appreciates it, but I don't think he really has that much interest in it. So it's funny how things work out, but yeah, it's been awesome to grow up around it, and I think it just kind of was a part of my life from the start, like you said.
Yeah, because Hunter's father's Andy McElrea, one of the leading Porsche Carrera Cup teams in Australia, and of course their season's kicking off fairly strongly as well. What are some of the lessons that you learned growing up around a race team, and certainly, obviously, one of the most professional Porsche teams in the country?
A lot. You're exposed to it from a very young age, so honestly, I would say I learned the business side of things probably a lot sooner than others. Like, I'm talking probably 11 or 12 years old. My dad was pretty blunt with me, kind of saying, like, do you want to race, or like, are you really serious about racing? Because it's probably not as easy as you think, obviously, with, the sponsorship and the financial side of things, unfortunately, which the sport has, it's extremely... It is the biggest part of it, and probably the biggest hurdle for a lot of guys is just getting the budget and the opportunity to even get on track at a high level. So, I figured out pretty quick I was going to have a lot of support and, not only have all the support, but actually be good enough to have the support in the first place because, my dad wasn't going to, I guess you could say, push me and give me this opportunity and put me in a position to meet with guys who can, give me the financial support to actually go, and he doesn't want to waste the time, So my dad, I will say where I am lucky, a lot of people might think that because my dad owns a successful race team that he can financially support my racing, which is not the case. But what is the case where I am very lucky is that I have a lot of really, really great contacts through my dad. So I wouldn't be able to speak to those contacts, I guess, if I wasn't getting the results on track, because guys like that, they don't like to waste time and they're not going to, waste their time or money. So it's important, that you're getting the results on track as well, no doubt. So definitely been lucky with that aspect. And to answer your question, I would say, to be honest, the reality of how tough racing is was probably the lesson that I learned earlier the most.
So you've really had to go and force yourself through the doors and open up those lines of communication to get the money that you need to go racing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've so many awesome people in my corner, which are helping me out, not only financially, but a lot of great support. There's a few guys and one guy in particular who has been awesome and kind of influential in actually making my racing career happen at this level so far. And, I have Team HM supporters, which is a club that I created, a bunch of people who are giving me, maybe racing terms, not a huge amount, but still a lot of money. And just a lot of stuff like that, just in the off seasons, it's like the most work I do is, to be honest, in the off season, just hustling and trying to put deals together. So I'm very lucky because I have a lot of great people in my corner, but definitely you gotta knock down those doors and put yourself out there to get it.
Yeah, so to go back over your background, you came through karting at the national level in Australia, then went on to win the Formula Ford Championship. Then you won the Road to Indy Scholarship, which got you over there and into the USF 2000 category, where you finished runner-up. And now you're in Indy Pro 2000. So what's Indy Pro 2000?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's the middle step of the Road to Indy. So it's in between the first Road to Indy ladder, or the first, Road to Indy category, which is USF 2000. And basically, it's just got more aero and more power. And then the step above that is Indy Lights, and then obviously IndyCar. So right now there's one category in between, myself, or the category I'm in, and IndyCar, which is cool. Kind of one more step, you could say. And basically, it's the best bit about the Road to Indy and how I got myself on the map really was my 2018 season, because in karting, I did okay in karting, but I was never really a go-karter in the sense of I wasn't in the kart every weekend. And, there's a few factors. Like I did okay. I was on the podium at state titles and finished in the top 3 at national events, but I never really was the guy that was winning. And there's a few reasons for that, but ever since I kind of got in the car, it clicked for me, which I think all along what probably was going to happen with the way things were. And 2018, I dominated the National Formula Ford Championship, got the Road to Indy shootout ticket, and that's where I kind of got my shot, because where the Road to Indy is different to every other racing category in the world, period, is that there's scholarships. So guys like me who don't have, billionaire or millionaire parents or whatever you want to call it, you can actually win your way on the grid. And basically the shootout was champions from all around the world in Formula 4 or F4 at the time. And basically I won that shootout. It was a 2-day shootout in identical cars, and I got $200,000 to get on the USA 2000 grid. So $200,000 US was basically 2/3 of the budget of USA 2000. So it gets your foot in the door, and then you can meet the teams. And for me, it kind of just snowballed from there. I had a really good season, USA 2000, led the championship to last race, and then had a sensor fail, which cost me the championship pretty much, which was really, really tough. Wow. But that was a huge bummer. But I showed, I think, in my first year in America, I didn't know any of the tracks, or I was a complete rookie to everything, and to kind of win races and get poles and fight for the championship my first year, I showed what I needed to show to kind of keep getting opportunities. And then last year was a big learning year, I think, for myself and the racing team who I'm with. First year in Indy Pro 2000. It was up and down, but overall at the end of the year, you know, finished really strong, getting the win. And then this year we've been very, very good. So right at the front of the championship. And yeah, you know, I'm really looking forward to getting rolling actually next weekend for the month of May, which is one of my favorite, if not my favorite month of the year, with obviously Indianapolis. We got the Grand Prix coming up, and then obviously the oval race, which is the Freedom 90 or the Carbonite Classic. So yeah, really looking forward to getting rolling for that and continuing it.
Yeah, I've got goosebumps thinking about going back to the Brickyard and what that was like when I was over there a few years ago. It's an amazing, amazing facility. What is it like walking into Indianapolis as a young guy that's come through the ranks here in Australia to know that you're going to be racing on the most famous race circuit in the world?
It's awesome. The first test I ever did there was like, wow, you know, I remember like looking at the bricks and being like, it's like going to Disneyland for me, you know, like it's pretty crazy, you know, everything's so huge, and you pull onto the front straight for the first time, and I've only driven the Grand Prix tracks or the GP road course so far. I haven't driven the oval yet, but going across the bricks and kind of pulling onto the front straight, you kind of just can't help but look around, and it's just so, you can't describe it, but there's like an aura about the place really, and you know the history that's been there before, and to get the opportunity to race there is always very special. And I've been lucky. I've always gone very well there, and I've stood on the podium. I think almost every race I've been on the podium there, so that I've done. So standing on the Indianapolis podium, where you know all the F1 drivers and Indy 500 winners and stuff like that have been, is really cool. So that place, especially, you know, coming from Australia and New Zealand, racing at tracks like you know, Timaru in New Zealand, and then going from Wakefield Park and Queensland Raceway and then going to Indianapolis, it's a big difference. So yeah, I love those tracks still. But yeah, definitely there's nothing quite like Indy.
You can tell by the smile on your face how much you absolutely love it. And it does have an aura all of its own just everywhere there. It's fantastic. Another guy that you came through the ranks with through karting is doing some great things over in Europe, that being Jaxon Evans. You guys are pretty good mates. You grew up racing together. How was that coming through with him and then seeing what he's up to at the moment?
It's cool. I mean, Jaxon, I grew up with him, like close family friends, even away from racing, like before we started racing. And, you know, we talk every day. He's like a brother to me. So it's really cool how it's actually all worked out, because myself, Matt Campbell and Jaxon, kind of all three of us are really close mates away from the track. So for all of us to be racing overseas and winning and stuff like that, it's pretty incredible. So I think someone came to us and said, like, between the three of us, we all won our kind of own shootouts, I guess you could say, to get us overseas within 2 or 3 years, I think. And it's like over $1 million in prize money, like between us, no problem, just from that. And that was like, whoa, that's cool. Like I remember all of us three at Morgan Park, I think like 2015, my first race in Formula Fords, like state Formula Ford. There's a photo of Matt, Jaxon, and me, and we're just like, if you told us that kind of at that time, we'd been like, no way, you know. So it's pretty crazy how things roll, and it just so happens that, you know, all of us were kind of mates, and in a couple-year period, things changed pretty quick. So all of us are kind of in our different, I guess you could say, periods in our career still, though. Matt's obviously a Porsche factory driver. He's made it, you know, he's there. And Jackson's got a really good gig doing WEC and going really well in Super Cup. So, you know, I'm not where I need to be yet. You know, I'm living the dream, but I've still obviously got this championship to win in Indy Lights and before I hopefully get to IndyCar. So I'm kind of halfway through mine, but to still be racing at a professional level and, you know, be winning at this level is a dream come true. So, you know, I've got a lot to go still, but I'm appreciative of where I'm at. So, yeah.
But your state at home's definitely IndyCar. You're not looking at Europe at this stage. You're certainly just keeping on that road to Indy pathway.
Definitely. I mean, I think just with everything, you know, that the road Indy's given me so far, and in terms of the scholarship and the opportunities that are here versus Europe, you know, unless I get some crazy Red Bull contract or something like that, I can't really see anything changing because of just how much the road to Indy is, you know, helped me out purely on the scholarship basis, and, you know, the prize money that's available for, you know, poles and race wins and things like that help towards your budget. It's kind of a no-brainer for me, and IndyCar has always been my goal. You know, I've got a lot of support for that, and I kind of set my sights on that. I would say, you know, a fair while ago that was my goal. So I've kind of got a lot further than probably, you know, you always think it's going to be easy, but, you know, for how difficult it actually is and how far I've got so far versus, you know, how much I've got left in the tank, I think it's going well so far, but definitely a lot of work to do still. But yeah, 100% IndyCar is the goal, and yeah, hopefully in maybe 2 or 3 years it could be there.
Cool. And so coming through that Australian ladder program to get to America, what are your thoughts on the grassroots progressions in Australia? Do you think that they're solid?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I was always wanted to go the open wheel path. And no question, Formula Ford is the way to go if you want to go race open wheelers. I mean, obviously there was things like Formula 4 and stuff which didn't quite work out, but you know, I think in terms of open wheelers, obviously when I was racing there was no S5000 or anything like that. So there's more categories coming. Obviously TCR's here as well now, which is another championship that's here, and then it goes out saying the Porsche Pyramid that works as well. So you know, there's Jaxon and Matt Campbell, who, like I said, both friends of mine, both guys who went through my dad's team, and they're, you know, 2 guys went through the Australian Motorsport ladder, and they're kind of racing at the top level, basically in endurance racing. Myself on the road to Indy through Formula Ford in Australia, and I think there's going to be more guys, you know, no doubt, coming through the Porsche Pyramid and the TCR. And the TCR is kind of I don't know too much about it, if I'm honest, but I know that those cars are equal around the world, and I'm pretty sure, you know, guys can go straight from Australia to race in the FIA, I think it is one. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think coming from this side of the world into America, into Europe, is always going to be a hurdle for guys like us from our side of the world, Australia or New Zealand, because of just, you know, number one, how much tracks there are in America and Europe is just unbelievable. How much money there is probably one of the other big ones as well. So I think if you can win a national championship, or you can become a champion at a top level category in Australia, no doubt you can compete with the guys over here.
And so moving away from the track, you've done a lot of mindset work with a guy called Stuart Walters in the hypnotherapist space. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how that's helped you, and if you're still doing those programs?
Yeah, I mean, I met with Stuart through Matt Campbell, actually. He hooked me up with him, I would say, just as I started racing cars. And it's helped a lot. I mean, you know, racing is a huge mental game, as all sport is. You know, it's mostly mental, to be honest. There's a lot of people who, you know, have a lot of natural talent, but, you know, some days they don't have it and some days they do have it. And I think, to be honest, just extracting the most mentally out of yourself is, to be honest, the most important part. So Stuart has helped me a lot with that over the years, and I think it's something that you can never master it, or you can never be too good at it. It's something that you can always improve on. And I've definitely, no doubt, you know, continuously improved that side of my craft, and I think it shows. Obviously, I've been able to have some really good success, which has been good, but also a lot more hopefully to have and that I want to achieve. So Stuart has been a huge asset and a huge kind of helpful part of my program, no doubt.
What sort of programs do you do? Like, for those that don't understand what hypnotherapy might be, what sort of things would you be doing with Stuart?
It's basically like you said, a hypnotherapy. So it's like sports hypnosis, basically. In it, it's like there's triggers, that certain things you need to work on mentally, like whether it be negative thoughts or whatever it is. Everyone is slightly different in what they kind of need to fix or achieve or want to achieve mentally. But basically, it's like flicking a switch, and for me, it's like when I put my helmet on, it's like a flick. A switch is flicked, and I'm kind of on autopilot. And it's little stuff. It's really powerful, to be honest. It's hard to explain exactly what it is, but basically, It's like you're basically hypnotizing yourself to perform at your peak mental performance. And I can sit here and say that it worked for me, and there's a lot of others that would say the same. So it's interesting. It's hard to maybe put yourself out there, or you might feel a little weird or vulnerable about it. But for me, and I think any athlete that's competing at a extremely high level where the margins are very close, if you can get a little gain, that's huge. So I'm always looking for any little gain I can get, and that's definitely more than a little gain.
Is that something you do with him over, like, nowadays, the internet? Like, would you be able to do that over a Zoom call like we're doing now, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously being on the other side of the world makes it a little harder. But yeah, I catch up with him. Throughout the year, and even I've been working with him for almost 5 years now. So for me, it's I don't necessarily need to be doing these, I guess you could say, getting hypnotized each session. It's more so kind of talking and deciding, what the plan of attack is, and looking things from a different angle, which, he's very good at. And he's a very interesting guy, Stuart. The first time you meet him, he kind of, it feels like he's kind of just reading your brain. It's very weird and different experience that you can't really prepare for, but he's a very, very smart guy, and clearly what he does works. So yeah, he's a good guy. And if anyone's thinking about doing it, or even if it's something to do with business mindset or not even sport, he's very, I think, helpful. And my advice for anyone would be, if you're thinking about doing it, or it's something that you're questioning doing, just go ahead and do it, and see for yourself what it's like.
Yeah, for sure. And physical training, obviously, many of these tracks that you go to, particularly the street courses, are highly physical, high speed, like at Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Then, of course, racing on ovals as well, which is a whole new proposition. What do you do for your physical training to be ready for those challenges?
It's huge. I mean, to be honest, the Indy Pro Car is the first time I really was like, okay, I need to lift some weights, because I've always been a naturally fit dude. Like I run a lot. I'm quite tall. I'm 6'3", so I have to keep very lean. And I'm a naturally skinny guy, but the last few years it's all been about keeping my weight down and staying at like 70 kilos at 6'3", like, because you don't want to be giving time away. And then hopping in the Indy Pro Car, G forces are like super high. There's a lot of aero. And your neck feels like it's getting ripped off your head, So you go to tracks like Barber or Mid-Ohio, these really long flowing tracks with high speed corners. You got to have a strong neck. I mean, you can kind of see my neck's almost as big as my head now. I mean, not quite, but I do a lot of neck training because it's super important. Because if your neck goes, it's so hard to control the car. And for me, just the tires are super big on this car too. The track patch is huge. So new tires in qualifying, the steering is really heavy. Obviously, no power steering. Each track brings its own little thing, to be honest. Like Barber, it's super high speed. So the neck strength and steering weight is very high. So that's that kind of physical aspect. St. Pete, the cornering speeds aren't as fast because it's a street track, but the heat was very, very hot. So you're very hot and you're sweating and losing so much water, that kind of tiredness. So then you go to the ovals and it's just your neck is going one way the whole race and one side of your body gets tired. So it's all these different kind of things is like the kind of tough bit about it. It's not like you go to one track and it's like, all right, I wasn't tired, so I won't be tired here. It's like every track has its own little thing. So you got to train a lot of different stuff to make sure. And I think when you get to a certain speed, like the Indy Pro car is very fast. So kind of the US 2000 car was obviously a big step up from Formula Ford, but the step to Indy Pro was the same, if not bigger. So you really kind of have to work on that. And for me, I've always been, like I said, I would say naturally kind of fit guy. I do a lot of naturally run around, do a lot of sports and stuff like that. But yeah, you kind of like, oh crap, all right, I got to work out, So it kind of hits you pretty hard. So yeah, I mean, for me, and if I could give any advice to maybe someone young moving up the ladder, if they want to go single seat, is particularly train your neck from an early age because you'll have to soon.
So do you have a training facility at the workshop near where you live, or do you go to a gym close by? Where does that take place?
I go to a gym close by. I'm really lucky. It's like 2 miles away, or a mile away even. So, or you'd say 2K away. To be honest, I'm not very good with miles. So, yeah, 2 kilometers away. So in the summer, I walk there or run there, and yeah, it's helpful. So I'm pretty lucky. I have to give a shout out to the Paps family that I stay with because I actually get a free membership there because they said that I was a foreign exchange student. So free membership for being a foreign exchange student is pretty good. So
that's fair. I guess you are, but you're a student of racing over there, so that's
so that's good. But no, it's been really helpful, and I would say my frequent flyer miles there are pretty high. So I'm pretty much there every second day if you average it out. Some days every day. So when we have a little break like these past 2 weeks, you have a chance to hit it pretty hard, and it's it's good. So pretty lucky with that, and probably actually should go there tomorrow.
Yes, yeah, Indy's not far away. And getting back to what you're saying about the neck pressure and so on, going to an oval, what's that like? I mean, obviously you've come through a fairly traditional karting Formula Ford aspect, and then you get onto an oval race. What's that like to your body, to your mindset, I guess, as well?
Very different. It's super foreign at first. I mean, particularly with the track that I first raced on, which is the Carbonite Classic in Indy. It's Lucas Oil Oval or Lucas Oil Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard of it, IRP, they call it, or it's close to the 500 track or to the Speedway. But basically, it's a progressive banking track, and you got to run like right close to the wall, like really, really close to the wall where all the grip is, and it's against your instinct. So kind of adding to that foreignness is like, all right, I got to go higher and higher and higher and higher against the wall. And it's super uncomfortable at first, but once you get in the rhythm of it, you start to understand it. And in USF 2000, I made a mistake in qualifying, and because it's different in qualifying too. It's not like you go out and just do a lap. You have 2 laps by yourself. And my first time there, I hit the wall. I did a really good first lap. I was provisional pole in the first lap, then hit the wall in the second lap and had to start last. So that was a big learning experience. And then I came back last year in the Indy Pro 2000, which is pretty much the biggest event of the year, the Carbonite Classic or Freedom 90. and it's 90 laps around there. So it's a long race, and basically it's impossible to pass because of the high line and kind of one groove track. But I had an awesome race last year there. And one thing I will say about over racing is if you have a car that's not great, it's not very fun. But if you have a car that's really good, it's probably one of the most fun I've ever had in a race car, because last year I had one of the funnest races of my life. I drove from 6th to 2nd at the Carb Night Classic, and it was, like I said, so fun. It's just you're on rails and you're passing cars and you're in the zone, and really, really fun. So it's a different discipline for sure. One that I was probably a little bit disadvantaged on, I would say, probably coming from where I did against people that have driven them before. But it's been something that I've studied a lot over the last couple of years, and I would say I'm continuing to work on a lot. But definitely getting better and better. And obviously I had a really good race there last year, probably one of the highlights of the year, apart from winning at St. Pete. Getting second at the Freedom 90 was a big deal. So I can't wait to get back on the ovals this year. So I'm excited for it.
Great stuff, mate. Well, over the last half an hour, we've covered plenty of ground. We are in the month of May. This will drop around the time that you are headed to the Speedway. For those of us that have followed you from your karting career all the way through, we're really excited to see what you're doing over there, and really can't wait to see you in IndyCar in a couple of years' time. But in the meantime, we've got an Indy Pro 2000 championship to go and win this year. So thanks so much for your time, Hunter. And we look forward to following you throughout the rest of the season and catching up with you hopefully later on in the year.
For sure, Matt. Thank you very much for having me on. And look forward to chatting soon.
Thanks, mate. Well, that comes the checkered flag and another outstanding motorsport coaching podcast powered by Motivate Training. If only you could see the smile on Hunter's face at the mere mention of Indianapolis. It is truly a special place, and if you haven't kissed the art of bricks yet, make sure you add it to your bucket list. You can watch Hunter's races live at indypro2000.com and find all the links to his socials at huntermcelrea.com. Make sure you give him a follow. The month of May is truly special in American motorsport. We wish all the Aussies and Kiwis competing at Indy, and indeed around the world, safety and success throughout this month. To maximise your performance both on and off the track, reach out to our team at Motivate Training. Everything you need to know is at motivatetraining.com.au. Make sure you put the number 8 after the V. You've been listening to the Motorsport Coaching Podcast, powered by Motivate Training. I'm Matt Payne, and we'll catch you next time. Make sure you stay safe on the road and fast on the racetrack.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to this week's show. I really hope you enjoyed that one as much as I did. Now, remember, all the show notes with the links and the specials mentioned in today's show are available over at motivatetraining.com.au. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you could head to iTunes or Stitcher, type in Motorsport Coaching, subscribe, and leave us a review. Each week, I'll read them out, and you'll go into monthly draw to win a fantastic prize. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at motivatetraining.com.au or head over to our Facebook page at Motivate Until next time, take care.